Morning Liberty.
Well, what is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston, and across from me is Mr. Chuck Charlie Thompson. How's it going this morning? Or actually, this afternoon? Chuck.
It's another day. I'll tell you that much.
That is accurate. Yes, that is the case, for sure. I was thinking yesterday, today's plan early yesterday was to do a show talking about cancel culture, consequence culture, all these things that have been happening in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. And, I'll be darned if the podcast content gods did not get together and throw us something that we could really talk about today. And so, as you guys know, the news, the main news people are talking about right now is that ABC has suspended Jimmy Kimmel, the Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Indefinitely.
We don't really know what that means yet, but so far it's indefinitely.
They always add that.
Yeah.
Like in the NFL, suspended indefinitely for 6 games.
Yeah, like they haven't. Like they haven't officially canceled him. He's not officially fired or anything like that. We don't know exactly when or if he's going to be back. And hey, I don't think Jimmy Kimmel's funny, really, at all. Haven't thought he was funny for quite a long time. And I think this whole thing with the late night TV shows going so political all the time has become really, really unfunny. Like back in the days of Jay Leno and David Letterman and all that, used to be some actual funny content that was not just overtly political, just over the entire show. And now they've picked a side, which is the left, and they've decided to just make jokes or sometimes not even making jokes, and just be like anti-right-wing, anti-Republican, anti-conservative the entire time. And a lot of times like shilling for whatever the government wants to do back when like Biden was in office and all that. Saw that a ton with these guys. And I think it's a terrible business decision for them. And I think they should be punished in the free market for that terrible business decision of deciding to alienate half of their customers and just decide, like as a business, like, you know what, I'm just going to cut out the amount of people that can listen to the show that broadcasts to everyone with the intent of wanting to be listened to by the most amount of people. I'm just going to go ahead and decide right off the bat that I don't want half these people to listen to this show on this network TV channel.
And the market can decide that by people stop watching the program.
And they have been deciding.
that.
Yeah, it's the thing. Like I posted
CNN and MSNBC and Jimmy Kimmel and all the late night shows anyway. They're all declining rapidly.
They all lose money. All of them do.
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert got canceled already for whatever reason you want to say it was. Stephen Colbert got canceled already, and he was losing money, but he was the biggest show. And he was losing money. And Jimmy Kimmel is the number 2 show. He's losing money. Jimmy Fallon got half as many viewers as Stephen Colbert had. He's losing money. And so, like, the people are speaking. They don't really care about this content anymore. They'll catch whatever clip happens to be funny. They'll catch it on X or Facebook or whatever the next day.
Yeah, they're not on TV at 10 o'clock at night. No. They're watching Netflix.
That's what they're. In fact, that's something I'm going to make sure we get to today.
They're binging the next show. It's like, are you still watching? Yes, that's what they're clicking. Not late night TV shows.
So I want to get to some of the comments that I think led to this, and then some of the government actions that really led to this. I have a lengthy clip here that I want to make sure we go through today, and this really stems from an appearance by FCC Chair Brendan Carr on the Benny Johnson show yesterday, where he was doing what many would call jawboning, something that we were against for sure when the Biden administration and others were jawboning social media companies, people like this, and basically the threat of government action against you if you don't get in line. where he was very clearly, explicitly jawboning that the FCC might be going after some of these networks if they didn't do something to Jimmy Kimmel. So I want to go through that because he explains some important stuff. We'll get through that. So before I play the clip that's been going around everywhere, I wanted to play a clip, the episode that aired right after Charlie Kirk's assassination. So that was on last Wednesday, I guess. Last Wednesday, I believe. And so this aired Thursday night of last week. And I actually found it to be, from what I remember when I watched it earlier, worse than the clip that's been going around that people said got him fired in the first place. But he does come out. I just wanted to play, to be as fair as we can. He starts off talking negatively about the people that are celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination, and then he just immediately goes into like how terrible the right is afterwards. And so I'm going to play some of that.
Joining us here in Los Angeles.
This is fair use for YouTube.
Yes.
We're going to analyze this
commentary.
Divided nation where, like the rest of the country, we're still trying to wrap our heads around the senseless murder of the popular podcaster and conservative activist Charlie Kirk yesterday, whose death has amplified our anger, our differences. And I've seen a lot of extraordinarily vile responses to this from both sides of the political spectrum. Some people are cheering this, which is something I won't ever understand. And we had another school shooting yesterday in Colorado, the 100th one of the year. And with all these terrible things happening, you would think that our president will at least make an attempt to bring us together, but he didn't. President Obama did. President Biden did.
We're less than a minute into the clip right now, by the way, where he's opening with the terrible assassination of Charlie Kirk. He's been speaking for a total, because there was some applause at the beginning. He's been speaking for a total of about 40 seconds right now, and about 7 or 8 seconds of it was spent on the Charlie Kirk thing, and then it got into school shootings where he said it was the 100th one of the year. Don't worry, I'll bring those numbers to you sometime in the future. And so it's just, there's clearly like a...
And then it's Trump's fault.
It's Trump's fault for the rhetoric,
Presidents Bush and Clinton did. President Trump did not. Instead, he blamed Democrats for their rhetoric. The man who told a crowd of supporters that maybe the Second Amendment people should do something about Hillary Clinton. The man who said he wouldn't mind if someone shot through the fake news media. The man who unleashed a mob on the Capitol and said Liz Cheney should face 9 barrels shooting at her for supporting his opponent blames the radical left for their rhetoric. And then the man who on 9/11, 2001, bragged that his...
I'm so glad he reminded me about the whole Liz Cheney firing squad thing, because I had started to forget some of the reasons I decided to vote for Trump just before the election. And that was one of them that piled on there. Yeah. There's so many ridiculous things from the media.
More gaslighting.
Yeah.
That they still believe, by the way.
Yeah.
This is when it becomes pathological. Like you say it so many times, it's just ingrained in you.
I'm surprised he didn't say the man who said they were fine people on both sides of the white supremacist rally or whatever.
He wanted to, but the speechwriters took that out.
It was just a little bit too much for him. So I guess I played that to point out that he did come out and say that he did not understand, the people that were celebrating this happening. And then he immediately went on to just go after Trump and Republicans and stuff like that. So that was the day after the assassination. This one happened on Monday. So it's important to realize that this one happened on Monday because on Friday, I think, of last week, I think that was the day we were talking about it, there was speculation that started to go around and even started to seem plausible that the guy, Tyler Robinson, was like a groyper or something. We didn't know. We talked about that a little bit on Friday. We're like, a little bit more information is going to have to come out. So there's more information that comes out a little bit over the weekend. And then there's definitely reports from his family members, things like that, saying that he was on the left and more recently on the left and had talked about hating Charlie Kirk and stuff like that. Now that alleged text message chain had not come out yet. as of the taping of this episode or anything. But there was at least some information showing that the guy was probably on the left. And this is the clip, I guess, that just pushed everything over the edge.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. It's demolition, construction.
That was actually a pretty funny joke right there.
Yeah.
I've actually chuckled every time I've listened to this clip.
And this is what is kind of weird is that I don't think what he said was necessarily that bad. I'm not saying I agree with it.
Yeah.
What he did the other, like last week, was worse.
That's what I was thinking. Like I thought
Like,
the other thing that was the day after, and he's out there doing this.
Both of them together.
Yeah, that could be the case. That it was just both of these things.
But it's also not like Jimmy Kimmel comes up with this by himself. He's reading a teleprompter.
That's true.
Like there's a whole team of writers. It's the show itself. And maybe that's why they're suspending Jimmy Kimmel. It's probably the show. It's not like Jimmy Kimmel himself is solely responsible. But I don't know. Look, ABC is a private company. They can do whatever they want. I'm against government pressure, jackboning, whatever you want to call it.
Jawboning.
Jawboning.
Yeah.
See, I don't even know. It doesn't matter. I'm against the government pressure or government having the right to cancel your broadcasting license if you don't do what they say. Of course, I'm against that. But I'm also for ABC doing whatever they want. And then, I mean, there is a small part of me that kind of celebrates a victory from all the cancel culture of the left for them to like get their own medicine.
Yeah.
There's always that little like, dark shadow that I have, like, ha ha ha, you were supporting canceling all these people for freedom of speech. Now look at you. And this is the snake eating its tail type of its full circle moment, Careful. And this is what we talk about all the time. Careful careful what you wish for when it comes to people having power and deciding certain things, because then it can be turned and used against you.
Yeah. So I think that's a good question. I've been going back and forth on this because, like you, I'm not sad for Jimmy Kimmel today. I don't feel that.
I'm not going to fly my burned flag at half mast.
No, definitely not. And so it got me thinking a little bit more. And then likewise with all the people that have gotten fired or whatever because of their Charlie Kirk posts and everything. Some of it I think has been too much. Like some people, not that I don't know if they got fired, but people trying to go after people who criticize Charlie Kirk or whatever. Not even, even if they said that of course he shouldn't have been killed, but then they're still criticizing him, calling him names or whatever. But then of course the people who celebrated it, like, I don't know. There's a, in my opinion, you can draw a distinction between canceling someone because they said that a man can't be a woman and canceling someone because they agreed with murdering someone. Like those are, and I don't know, like how do you, I guess your society has to draw that distinction or whatever. The people have to draw that distinction. They're not really going to. But I do feel, maybe I'm biased, I do feel like there is a difference in one side canceling someone because they didn't kneel at a BLM thing, and then the other one canceling someone because they said they were happy that someone got murdered in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
It just feels like different things.
But then you got to go further than that, like the people celebrating Israel destroying Gaza. Should they be canceled? Even our politicians? I will say all of this is to say, like, one of the things we talk about on this show is life, liberty, and the pursuit of meaning. And part of that whole pursuing meaning thing comes with responsibility. And this is why I think it's so important to not be beholden to anyone for your family's sake, your paycheck or whatever. And you have the freedom to truly express yourself without losing a paycheck or anything like that. I think that is like the most self-responsible thing you can do. And then you can say whatever you want and not have to worry about the consequences because you're the owner. Mm-hmm. Like you're in charge of that. I know I went a little off the rails there, but I'm just trying to bring this into like what do we do about this? But I'm with you. I don't feel sad for Jimmy Kimmel. I never thought he's really that funny.
Yeah.
I think the left for years has played a dangerous game with political power. And what we've always warned about power is that it can be used against you in the future. God, all you got to do is go back and read about the Soviet Union and all the leaders of communism that ushered in the revolution who ended up in the gulags.
The communists, they killed a lot of communists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, how quickly the turntables.
They're actually one of the biggest killers of communists.
Yes.
The communists.
Yeah.
So I want to play, I've got this clip, and it's like 6 minutes long, and it's important because there's a difference, as many people will bring up today, in Disney, ABC, ABC parent company Disney, and then the affiliates, the companies that own the affiliates like Nexstar and Sinclair and all that, like the whole system is really weird when you break it all down anyway. But there's a difference in those people deciding that they don't like this content, that they don't want this stuff going out to this large audience, and they want something that's going to appeal to everyone in some way, and that Jimmy Kimmel's losing them money, and that he's, number 2 or 3 in the ratings and the time slot or whatever when it comes to late night hosts. And so it's, this is a step too far and it's time to take him down, especially after we saw a massive political assassination like this. There's a difference in that. And then them doing it because the chair of the FCC has threatened to go after those TV affiliates and take their government-granted license and not allow them to broadcast on these channels anymore. And then when you add on top of that, something I want to try and not forget is
the government somehow owns the air and the microwaves that travel through the air.
Well, so the way that they did it was not correct, but there's the argument goes, and this is from the Communications Act of 1934. I heard Milton Friedman talk about this a whole lot of times, but there is a limited space in the electromagnetic spectrum for things like this to be broadcast. And so they said this can't be private property, essentially. This is a public good because this is all of the electromagnetic spectrum that we have here, and it's going to create a natural monopoly, and so we have to grant these licenses. Now they ended up picking like friends that they like gave the licenses to, essentially like handed out fortunes to people.
But you could say the same thing about like land.
No, they do.
There's only,
not all the land. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but they could say that if they wanted to. But anyway,
by the way, with technological advances, we found ways to send signals over different bands of spectrums, by the way.
Mm-hmm. And not only that,
that's how we have Wi-Fi and cell phones. And
not only that, just jumping to my last slides that we have here, not only that, but hardly anyone watches TV that's going over antennas anymore. Like this is a law from 1934. This whole system is a system that was created in the 1930s or even before, whenever they started doing this broadcasting. And that
probably before with radio.
And with radio too, but the actual Communications Act 1934 created the FCC, and then they regulate all this stuff. So the system is very outdated and does not account for the fact that most people watch ABC on streaming services like YouTube TV or cable or satellite, not on their antennas being broadcast over this limited electromagnetic spectrum that is a public good for everyone. They watch it coming through their Wi-Fi. That's how they see it. And so we're moving away from this even being a possibility even in the first place. Like, I don't have a license.
I don't care.
For what? Like, no one watches it on their antenna. Who cares? I've got a deal with Comcast, and they put me on channel 327, and so who cares?
Or 3,327
yeah, sure, whatever
for HD.
It is. Whatever it is, I'm going to stream on YouTube TV on whatever channel that is. So, we're reaching a point where like it's not going to matter eventually, except for radio. And when you think about political radio, conservatives, like massive conservative political radio stations out there, and those people, by the way, are just as susceptible to the next president deciding that they are going to jawbone and do the same thing to go after their licenses to broadcast on the radio stations that they're broadcasting on. And so everyone needs to keep this stuff in mind. Obama tried to open the door in doing this, and it ended up being such of an uproar from conservatives that they stopped. But you always got to ask yourself, like, am I okay with the next guy using the same power?
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, and like right now, you're like, well, of course I'm fine with the next guy using his power because I don't have any freaking late night TV show hosts that are right wing anyway. So who cares? Fox News. I watch Fox News. They're not using like a Fox and their affiliates have broadcast license, but Fox News channel is not streaming or sent out to my antenna using their broadcast license or anything like that. Like, that's something I get through satellite or through YouTube TV or whatever. And so, why should I care? Because it's not like they're going to take down my favorite late night host anyway. Okay, I'm going to play the comments from Brendan Carr because they're important. Because a lot of people are going to be saying, well, this is just a business decision. It is a business decision because they didn't want the government to take away their ability to earn money. All right? But yeah.
Right.
Here's
when you look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel, it appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. As you've indicated, there are avenues here for the FCC. So there are some ways in which I need to be a little bit careful because we could be called ultimately to be a judge on some of these claims, as you indicate, of one of the most significant, newsworthy public interest acts that we've seen in a long time. And what appears to be an action by Jimmy Kimmel to play into that narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican motivated person. If that's what happened here with his conduct, that is really, really sick. And I've been very clear from the moment that I have become chairman of the FCC, I want to reinvigorate the public interest. And what people don't understand is that the broadcasters, and you've gotten this right, are entirely different than people that use other forms of communication. They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Now, what does that mean?
I think what you said there strikes me as a very reasonable.
Sorry, I forgot what I was playing.
What does that mean?
Yeah. It's
either Disney can take care of this or we can take care of this.
Yeah, and the excuse here is the licensing and the public interest, which is like in the terms of the licensing. And the obvious question that people will ask here and should ask is who determines what is in the public interest? That is a subjective ass term if I've ever heard one in my entire life. Okay, so who's going to get to determine what the public interest is? The Obama administration tried to go around to all the conservative talk show stations and say that They were not giving adequate airtime to opposing viewpoints and questioning whether or not they were talking about things that were in the public interest, like health and the environment and things that are actually, in the whole public's interest. And there was an uproar and they ended up dropping the whole thing. But that they were trying to determine what they thought was in the public interest. And the president...
It's going to be whoever the president is.
Yeah, the president gets to fire the people that are on the FCC board. There's 5 members of the FCC board. And by the way, I've always liked Brendan Carr. It's not, like typical to have like, oh yeah, that's my favorite FCC chair guy, But I've always liked Brendan Carr. We have talked about him before. You might not remember, but he was a member of the board previously. And he's the one that's always been pushing for the government to, like when they're doing their broadband thing. It's the name of it's slipping my mind right now. When they spent all that money to bring broadband to everyone and haven't done it yet, but they're gonna. He was like, why don't we just use Starlink instead? Why don't we use SpaceX to do this? And in fact, they were going to use SpaceX to do this, and then they canceled that. Because they don't like Elon Musk, is why they canceled that.
Not because it's for the public interest.
Yeah, not because of that. And so he's always been pushing to go, this is clearly the best option for people, is to just send a freaking dish, Starlink dish to everyone's house. It'd be way cheaper if we're going to do this. It's way better to do this. And I was like, well, I kind of like that guy. That makes sense, I
do like what Magoo said here. What's funny? That the irony here, this is happening on a podcast.
Yeah.
Over the internet, this conversation is not being broadcast over the airwaves.
And the Benny Johnson show, that's happening on a podcast and on X. He streams on X, has an insane amount of people watching him every single day. And this interview is what everyone is saying led to it was Nexstar deciding that they've got 30 affiliate stations or whatever. They're saying that they were going to pull Jimmy Kimmel. They call it preempting or whatever. They're going to change what it was supposed to play in that slot because ABC and Disney are sending them the content, and they are just the network, the affiliates that are doing this, and they say, well, they're sending us this, but we're going to put something else over it. At that time, this conversation on Benny Johnson's show, a podcast / X stream, led to Jimmy Kimmel getting indefinitely canceled or whatever. So that's pretty crazy too. Actually, Brendan Carr is going to make a little bit of point about this.
I think coming up that can be taken. I mean, obviously, look, there's calls for Kimmel to be fired. I think you could certainly see a path forward for suspension over this. And again, the FCC is going to have remedies that we could look at. And again, we may ultimately be called to be a judge on that. But this also strikes me as sort of conduct that to some extent it shows some sort of desperate irrelevance. I mean, we're sort of exiting an era where the 3 main legacy broadcast networks could control and dictate the narrative to the American people. And one of the things that President Trump did when he ran for office, he ran directly at that legacy media establishment. And he smashed the facade that they get to control what we say, what we think, the narrative around events. And we're seeing a lot of consequences that are flowing from President Trump doing that. Their grip on the narrative is slipping. That doesn't mean that it's still not, important to hold them to the public interest standard. That's what we're going to have to do.
Now, he caught himself right there at the end because
he just said that.
He's making a really good point that these people are irrelevant. And it doesn't matter what they're doing. It's actually the podcast, streaming services, things like that. It's things coming over the internet that actually matter. That's what's driving public opinion. That's what people are listening to. The point that Magoo was making earlier.
But one of the things Trump ran on was making sure that these broadcast companies can't control the narrative. And that people could speak freely about what they want.
And he showed who actually controls the narrative, which are all of these services.
Yeah, but unless it's a narrative that the Trump administration doesn't like, then...
And then he goes, well, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't hold them, still to the public interest standard. That's, so he caught himself there a little bit.
I don't think most people understand actually the depth of how important it is that ABC, NBC, CBS have these gratuitous broadcast privileges granted to them by the American taxpayer.
Yeah, the right way to sort of explain this to people so they understand it is in the media landscape as relevant here, there's two main buckets of actors. One, you've got what we call national programmers. So that's what Comcast is, Comcast NBC. That's what Disney is, Disney ABC. They're the ones that effectively create and produce these shows. They then provide those shows to individually licensed TV stations. And those TV stations are, in the main, owned by independent companies, independent from Comcast and Disney. But Disney and Comcast both own some televisions themselves. So start from the idea that you have national programmers that create the show, including the Kimmel show, and then they're given to and distributed over licensed TV stations. It's the licensed TV stations that have the public interest in it, including those TV stations that Comcast and Disney own. So FCC regulatory action focuses on those individual stations. And one thing that we're trying to do is to empower those local stations to serve their own communities. And the public interest means you can't be running a narrow partisan circus and still meeting your public interest obligations. It means you can't be engaging in a pattern of news distortion. We have a rule on the book that interprets a public interest standard that says news distortion is something that is prohibited. Likewise, we have a rule that addresses broadcast hoaxes. And so, again, over the years, the FCC has stepped back from enforcing it, and I don't think it's been to the benefit of anybody. Just look at the credibility.
I just have to say, like, I have no clue how if this is if we're actually going to start taking actions on this, which they really haven't. Like, he's right about that. How the hell are we going to decide what news distortions are and broadcast hoaxes and stuff like that? Like this is after he said that the right was trying to do everything they can to show that the shooter wasn't one of them. He didn't even say like that he was one of them or anything. He just said that that's what the people on the right were doing. Like, you guys think about all the stuff that we've talked about, even over the lifespan of this podcast right here, but that people on the news and all that have talked about when it comes to COVID and BLM and elections and vaccines and all kinds of, like, who the hell is going to determine public interest? You got to vote, 5-person panel going to vote on public interest, whether or not there's broadcast hoax / news distortion. So they got to be like really, really good, virtuous angels deciding whether or not they've accurately brought the news to everyone
in an oriented way.
Like, it's just something that can't be done, is what I'm saying. It's going to be done on a partisan basis. If they're going to start actually policing this and going after people, like the content of your news is just going to change drastically with each presidential administration, like that. And not only that, they're going to strictly go after it, and they, could help determine who the next presidential administration is. Not that they haven't already tried. They clearly have all tried to do this. And we have to keep in the back of our minds that these people are largely irrelevant in the first place. I'm just, I'm not a fan of the action. If they are irrelevant, then why do it? Other than just like trying to show people that they can't be talking crap about you. And there's let me put a little bit more here, and then we'll go to the next topic. Unless you got something.
I was just going to say, when you think about like your local TV station, what you have to think about, like when you look at your local weather, they have a broadcast viewing area. And so that's what he's talking about. I can't remember, like WZTV or whatever.
That's Fox here.
Yeah. So that's like the broadcast area. That's the local company that owns like this viewing broadcasting area.
That's who actually has the license.
Yes.
By the way,
that's who the FCC regulates.
It's not even like, and in this case,
that's why they can cut in when there's breaking news. They can cut in when the president's speaking.
Yeah.
They can cut in when there's weather events.
Yeah. And
they own the airwaves locally.
People get tripped up when they're like, we should take ABC's license. And the community note at the bottom of that is ABC doesn't have a license. That's not what it is. It's like this channel and this channel and this channel, and they're like an affiliate. They play ABC programming, but ABC is just a content creator. That's all they are. They send it out to people who have licenses.
And that's why sometimes when, the Dallas Cowboys game is on Fox, it's not here in Tennessee because the Titans are on Fox too.
It's very annoying.
Yeah. So we have to get NFL Sunday Ticket so we can stream over the internet.
capitalism
and get around the broadcasting limitations.
Let me see if anything else important happens here at the end of this clip.
Of these legacy media, it's absolutely through the floor. They used to be able to say at least they were more trustworthy than Congress, but now they're even less trustworthy than Congress. And so I think as a business matter for them, something has to change. And at the FCC, we need to reinvigorate this. So again, there's actions that we can take on licensed broadcasters. And frankly, I think that it's really sort of past time that a lot of these licensed broadcasters themselves push back on Comcast and Disney and say, listen, we are going to preempt. We are not going to run Kimmel anymore until you straighten this out, because we licensed broadcaster, are running the possibility of fines or license revocations from the FCC if we continue to run content that ends up being a pattern of news distortion. So I think, again, Disney needs to see some change here, but the individual licensed stations that are taking their content, it's time for them to step up and say, this, garbage, to the extent that that's what comes down the pipe in the future, isn't something that we think serves the needs of our local communities. But this sort of status quo is obviously not acceptable where we are.
You believe that what Jimmy Kimmel said rises to the level of news distortion?
Look, again, the FCC could be called upon to be an ultimate judge in that, but at this point, I think it's clear. It appears to be clear that you can make a strong argument that this is sort of an intentional effort to mislead the American people about a very core fundamental fact to a very important matter. At the end of the day, if we do get called upon to cast a vote on this, Disney will have a chance to put in their arguments and explain it. But this is a very, very serious issue right now for Disney.
I like how he so carefully chose his words there.
Yeah.
It would appear that this is something that could be taken as, not speaking correctly about facts in a very important matter, because I guess there's an administrative court where you can,
Disney can plead their case,
et cetera.
Although they won't probably have the presumption of innocence in an administrative court.
Right.
You've got to prove your innocence.
Convince the panel of 5 FCC judges.
The administration is correct until proven incorrect in an administrative court. So I want to get through a couple things also here. Both Disney and Nexstar have FCC business ahead of them. Disney is seeking regulatory approval. So this is a thing, okay? And by the way, all the people on the left that are very upset about this today, well, I hope that you will call to abolish the FCC, the FTC, whatever other agencies that have regulatory approval over things like this, because you're very worried about the administration being able to control the media landscape because of these business dealings. Well, this is what happens when you allow the government to have a say-so over whether or not one business can offer money to another business and that business can accept it, and then they can, one can own the other, and you decide that has to go through the government. So guess what? When the government gets to approve that, they can say, well, I might approve it. We'll see. I don't know. What do you we'll see. I got to look at the merits here of what you guys are going to do, There's a potential news distortion happening over there. So I don't know if it's better for you guys to have more power or whatever, And so...
need to keep that competition.
Yeah, I want to promote competition.
Along with Spirit Airlines.
Promote the free... Oh, God. Let's see. Disney is seeking regulatory approval for ESPN's acquisition of the NFL Network, and Nexstar needs the Trump administration's go-ahead to complete approval to complete its $6.2 billion purchase of a broadcast rival, Tegna. For both companies, reinstating Kimmel after a suspension would risk the ire of Trump, who has already claimed that the show has been canceled.
Now, why would you have to worry about the ire of Trump? Is he a king?
Well, he's not a king, but he does have an administration, and you do have to go through the administration and the bureaucracy
to get approval to make business
to do
decisions.
Your business dealings.
That's so messed up.
So once again, all the people on the left that are super worried about how we've created this the Trump fascist environment that's happening right now, the structure already exists, and it has been used in the past as well. Of course, it's been used in the past. Maybe not so blatantly, You know, Trump's the kind of guy who's like asked in interviews, like, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's like, he'll just tell you straight up. And
or he'll say it's on the table at least. So you know, like, better not cross this guy.
And so if
it was just done in secret.
Like, this power exists. Okay. It has existed for like over 100 years in this country. And so if you're worried about all this fascism going around, then just admit the fact that some of your favorite presidents throughout history have been fascists. Okay. Please do that. Let me see. We also had stuff with CBS, whatever. We'll skip through that kind of stuff. Trump truthed out. You do the Trump stuff.
Yeah, he said, great news for America. The ratings challenged Jimmy Kimmel. The ratings challenged Jimmy Kimmel show is canceled. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Kimmel has zero talent and worse ratings than even Colbert.
Which, by the way,
possible.
It is possible because Colbert was number one, and so everyone has worse ratings than him.
That leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers, on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC. President DJT.
Nice. We'll rhyme that there at the end. Okay. That's Trump's comments on the matter. Now, of course, what you got to do when someone does something that may or may not be hypocritical is you got to look through their old posts. As I said, I was a fan of Brendan Carr. You know, I'd probably still agree with him on stuff as it pertains to SpaceX. Speaking of SpaceX, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I actually got a phone call where I...
From Elon?
Did a poll. I got to do a poll the other day.
No way.
And they called at 8:30 at night. And at first I was like, all right, they're about to ask for my credit card number or something like that. But they didn't. They just went through this whole public opinion poll. And so I did the whole thing. It took way too long, but I'd never done a poll before. So I wanted to get the libertarian representation in there. And I can tell you from the content of the poll, it would seem like SpaceX is probably about to take over the air traffic control modernization, and that they're checking to see how people will feel about that. And that's just like some of the how the explicit questions went. So anyhow, I forgot to tell everyone that I took a poll. They do exist, and somehow did call someone like me. Okay.
Wonder how you showed up. Are they polling libertarians now?
I don't know. I don't know how that works, but we got a little bit of representation in there. Because it was funny, like, who'd you vote for in the last election? It was like Trump. And then they went through all this stuff like, do you think we're on the right track or wrong track? I was like, wrong. It's probably very confusing polling results, I would say. And then by the end of it, I just wanted it to be over. And so I just started saying stuff. Like, I was like, that option there, that one right there. I just wanted to be done. And so that's why there's an error rate on your polls.
That's a disservice. Yeah.
Because I was just sick of it at that time. Anyhow, here's Brendan Carr responding to someone who said, lies, hate speech, and fear-mongering is not free speech. Stop your BS. You should be fired, you effing C-word. Unfortunately, I did not see who this person was responding to. So that's unfortunate. We'll just call them a C-word. So if not the C-word for Asians, but the C-word for some... Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about.
The see you next Tuesday word.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. Let's see. So Brendan Carr says, who, in your view, this is from a year ago, who, in your view, should have the power to draw the line between a lie and free speech? Government officials that want to stay in political power, or the people that can hold them accountable? So he's making a pretty clear argument there. This is a good one right here from 2019 where he says, should the government censor speech it doesn't like? Of course not. The FCC does not have a roving mandate to police speech in the name of the public interest. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. I just found a couple. Now, if he's talking about people policing social media or people policing people that don't have broadcast licenses, you could say, well, it is within the government's purview, technically and legally, to look into whether or not people should have these licenses, because they're the ones who created them and the ones who give them out. At the end here, we already kind of talked about some of this, but I wanted to bring up to everyone, any conservatives that are listening or people that are like super behind the decision of the government going after ABC or Nexstar, there are ample opportunities for them to go after people that are conservative, the FCC, that is. And so you always have to zoom way out and look at it and say, what are we saying here? We're saying that, I think, given the fact that these licenses exist, and I'm not fighting against the licenses right now, I'm being the conservative talking right now, not me. Given the fact that the licenses exist, the government and the FCC they should go after people who are not broadcasting things that the FCC and the president determined to be in the public interest. And so the president and the FCC shall determine what is the public interest, and then the FCC should take licenses away from people that are not broadcasting in the public interest.
Like the Glenn Beck program.
Yeah. Like
Sean Hannity.
Sean Hannity show.
Not that I love Sean Hannity anyway.
Oh, God. Even back when I was like a super right-winger, I couldn't listen to Sean Hannity. Yeah. He's always been so fake.
My favorite was Michael Savage.
Yeah, he's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seems to be going down the Candace Owens rabbit hole, Michael Savage.
I haven't listened to Michael Savage in a long time. Now, a lot of these people...
I just liked his voice the best, I think.
Yeah. Now, these people get a lot of people listening to them. Like conservative talk radio is still like a really big thing. Actual FM and AM broadcast. And the actual FM, AM broadcast, conservative talk radio is still very popular. And so I'm sure they get a good portion of like their revenue, of their earnings come from that. A lot of the message gets out via those airwaves. And the FCC, you guys have just told me is well within their rights and their purview and morally obligated to determine whether or not the content on those shows is in the public interest and remove the licenses from those stations if they are not policing the content that is being sent out to those radio stations. And so that's one way that you guys might not like that. There's a lot of big media groups, iHeartMedia, Salem Media Group, Cumulus Media, which would be similar to going after someone like Nexstar, who is the ABC affiliate, or Sinclair, who owns a whole bunch of TV affiliates and stuff too. And so this can still happen. It's not as big as, what did that say down there at the bottom? 91% of political talk radio is conservative radio. So
that's crazy.
Something, yeah. So they do these broadcast licenses. Like, this is what you're saying the FCC should execute this discretion over. All right, in which they can. They can. AM broadcast station, FM broadcast stations, non-commercial, educational broadcast stations, low-power FM stations, anything going over the airwaves. Full-power television shows, low-power television shows, Class A television stations, anything going over the airwaves, once again. But then I wanted to make the case before we get out of here that we're coming up on past time to be requiring people to have these licenses anymore. And that's a good thing. We've innovated our way out of that problem. And the problem was that there is a fixed amount of bandwidth for these things to go over. They decided it would be total chaos if everyone was setting up and trying to broadcast on the same frequency at the same time. And so for public good, they would give you a license to broadcast on that frequency. Whatever. Even if you make that argument, I'll say, yeah, the FCC shouldn't exist. Okay.
This whole conversation is pointless.
Yes.
Because broadcasting over the waves is not going to be important until the apocalypse comes, where you're going to have to tune your walkie-talkie to a certain AM station. We've all seen the movie.
And even, yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
And then
I don't remember the station, but I will once the apocalypse hits.
Well, you just scan through there. You'll find it eventually.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is
Good
now,
thing we got the bunker. We just need to get the walkie-talkies down here.
Yeah. We don't need walkie-talkies. We're going to get that. We do have it. We're broadcasting from a bunker, though.
Yeah.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
We're ready. We're almost ready.
Yeah. I'm a fan of that.
So
13.3%.
I do have to go 1 minute.
Yeah, 13.3%, maybe 16 to 19% of TV households used antennas. Let's see. And that's what we got. 13.3 is what it shows over here, driven by cord cutters seeking free local news and sports. That meaning people who had cable and stuff like that decided they were going to cancel their cable and just get their free channels over the airwaves. But we got to go. Charlie actually has to go.
Yep.
And so we're going to get out of here. You guys know the thing. You get the point. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Sorry for the short time frame getting out of here. If you do everything that I didn't just tell you to do, then we'll be back here tomorrow for Don't Bleep of the Week. Until then, have a good day and a good morning, everybody.